Hi, we will try to reconnect with Tim Kring. So, up. Station, I hope we could connect. Hi, Tim.
Okay,
Ah,
all right, can you hear me
that's
now?
a, it's okay, it's okay. So I paused the first part of the interview because it was closed, and so
Okay.
we were speaking about your first TV series with science. And my question is, it a heroes a before thing? Is it connected with heroes? Is two things totally
No,
different?
yeah, totally different. It was an assignment. I didn't know anything about the show before I got the job, and I was just one of many writers on the show, and so yeah, and to be honest, I knew from the very beginning that of that job that it wasn't going to be a show that worked. It just seemed like it was really too stupid of a show. So, uh, so yeah, I didn't. But it had nothing to do with Heroes. So,
Okay.
and it was probably 20 years before Heroes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Wasn't born anymore.
yeah, yeah,
And you work also for Knight Rider. It's Academy in French with David Hasselhoff.
yeah. That was
That's it.
actually, I think, my first. I think that was my first job.
Yeah.
Knight Rider was my first job, and it was yeah, it was the show had been going for like 6 years at the time. And so yeah, I came in and again I pitched an episode. Every television show um, has to every 22 episodes um, you have to offer a script to someone outside of the staff of the show. That's this is a rule from the writers guild. And so they have to go out to the entire writing community and offer people to come in. So I came in and pitched, and they liked this one idea that I had. I pitched, I think, 8 ideas to them, and it wasn't until I got to the last idea that they said, okay, that one we like.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
David Hasselhoff, of course. He's
yeah,
from
yeah.
Germany.
It was a really weird experience because I had never I'd never, like I was telling you earlier, I was working in production. I was doing mostly camera and lighting, and so and working for very little money. And so when I got this job to write an episode of television, it was so much money compared to what I was getting. It was just suddenly like, oh my God, this is amazing. You can make, and they wanted the script in a week. So I wrote the whole script in a week, and and they paid me, what was, guild minimum scale, meaning scale for, but it was so much more money than I was used to making. And I thought, I have to figure out how to keep being a writer because it was just, it was so easy compared to what I was, what I had been working on.
And according to Heroes, because I really love the series, it's a while right now. I just saw the fifth season of Heroes, including Heroes Reborn.
Uh,
Uh, I really love this. I really love this because it's very different of DC and Marvel. Except the fact there is Stanley who is acting in one of episode. He was the
that's
bus
right.
driver.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Stanley appeared all the time in the Marvel adaptation, and Heroes is not a Marvel adaptation, but I think
Right.
it's very great that Stanley is in it.
Yeah, he was actually a fan of the show, and I had given him a an award of the Jules Verne Award. I was the one who presented it to him at the ceremonies, and I got to know him there. And he said to me when I met him, he said, "Can I be on your show?" And I said, "Sure, come down and we'll find something for you to do." So he came to the set to visit, and we decided that we would find a way for him to be in the show, and so we made him a bus driver. Um, and yeah, it was just a great honor to meet Stan Lee.
And would you like right now, because the technology has evolved, there is Netflix now, Amazon, would you like one day to do something new with Heroes, or Heroes Reborn crash down the projects and it will not be any alternatives?
I actually think that um, the whole franchise of Heroes as a world, the universe of Heroes, is very it's got a lot of potential because uh, you know, it was not about one particular character. It's many characters, and a very the idea is a very broad, open-ended idea that the world has populated itself with these people that um, are suddenly discovering that they have these powers, and it's not about you know, a Justice League or it's not about capes and suits and all. It's ordinary people, right? And so I think that there's actually a lot of potential to do all kinds of things with that property. So I think it's a property that could continue to live on in many ways. Unfortunately, when we did the show, it was not thought of as a world. It wasn't thought of as a universe. It was thought of as a television show because I did it for NBC, which was a big network here in America. And that, as a company, they didn't think about anything other than television. They didn't think about how it could be a game or a movie or a series of books or an online, you know, multi-user online game. They didn't think in those ways at all. They only, as a company, NBC only made money one way. They only made money by selling advertising, right? That's all. That's the one way that they could make money. So their whole way of thinking about this was was only as a television show. And I think that in many ways that was not good for the brand, because had they thought of it as a universe that could grow and in the same way that Marvel thinks about their properties as a universe, they probably wouldn't have ordered 23 and 24 episodes a year of a television show, because to do that many episodes of a television show, it becomes creatively very difficult to do, and you burn up too much story, you burn up too much creativity, and the audience gets it's like eating too much chocolate. You can't have that much of it all at once. So if they were thinking about it as a universe, I think we would have done, you know, much smaller number of episodes and spread them out over a lot longer, so that it didn't burn itself out.
Yeah, that's too bad, because there were the strike, the scriptwriter strike,
Yes, yeah,
and people didn't like, because you know, in the season 2 there is Peter who comes in the future with the pandemic, and
yeah,
there is his girlfriend, you know, from the Irish bar. There is an
yeah,
Irish bar,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the girl is in the future, and he said, I will go back to the future to save you," and then she
yes,
disappeared from the
yeah,
show, and the fans didn't like it because
yeah,
they love the character. And
yeah.
with the virus, it's extraordinary because we spoke it by email, but it's the COVID right now.
Yes,
And
it's
in here,
amazing how similar that was.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because when I see the making of on the DVD, you explain it's a bit like COVID, you know, people will be dying, will be sick, there is different symptoms, different people, and yeah, it's like the COVID. And in Heroes, it's all the time anticipating and changing the future. But I think we can escape to the destiny, because Sarah is nice. When Peter comes in the future, he is nice. He became nice. And at the end of the season 4, he's nice. And they try to change the future, but they can escape to the destiny, I think.
Yeah, yeah. We played a lot with the whole idea of can you change your destiny? Can you change the future? And we had obviously with one character, Hiro Nakamura, who could travel into the future. We played with the idea of time travel. And to be really honest, uh, I would I doing time travel on a big show is a very difficult thing to do. Everything takes so much longer to in the writer's room than the amount of arguments that we had and fights that we had in the writer's room. Whenever you talk about time travel, it your brain hurts after a while because it's just so complicated. And I have to say, if I did it all over again, I'm not sure I would do as much time travel, because it was so, you get caught in these loops, and you get caught going down a rabbit hole that you can't get out of. You brought up the season 2, with the writer's strike. We were meant to have 26 episodes, I think, that season. 26
Yes.
episodes. Think of that.
But
Yeah, by the way, think about
yeah,
that.
but it was only 12, I think.
Yes, I think it was 11. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But we were meant to do 26 episodes. But we had to cut it at 11 because of the writer's strike. And then we didn't come back until almost 10 months later is when we came back. And so by that time, actors have moved on, and you couldn't pick up the show where you left off, and the audience had moved on in some ways. And so it's very hard to do a serialized show that's feeding on the energy of what happens next. You're feeding off of this kind of addictive energy. And then to suddenly be off for 10 months, it was very, very difficult for the show.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it was very hard for us to recover from that event.
Yeah. Some people didn't like in the series the fact that there is no really action scene, When it's the final scene in the season 1 with Peter and Sarah, we think about a big thing, like Spider-Man and...
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's good. I do like the fact there is not big fight between the characters.
Listen,
but
the amount of arguments that we had with the network on that. So the truth of that is that we had a big scenes, a plan for that. And see, all of this truth can now come out after all these years about what was really happening. But we, as a show, we were always, we were in a lot of trouble as a show, financially, schedule-wise. We were just, especially that in that first season, we were very ambitious. We had a pattern budget, what you call a pattern budget, meaning that's the amount of money they give you for each episode. That was very low compared to what we were spending, what we were actually trying to make. And so by the time, and we front loaded a lot of our budget so that we could make the show launch in a really exciting way at the beginning. And by the time we got to the end of the season, we were so far in debt. We owed so much money to the network. We'd spent all of our money, and they just would not let us spend any more money to make some of these, bigger scenes. So we were just, we just were limping across the finish line. We got to the finish line and we were just on our knees. And you also have to understand that the first season of the show, it took us 14 months to make 1 year of a television show, right?
My gosh.
And so how are we going to go forward with a television show that takes longer than a year to make one season of television, right? In other words, we were facing a mathematical impossibility. We couldn't make the show for the amount of time and money that we had to make it. And so we had to figure out how to, I think a lot of people talk about, well, season 2 wasn't as good as season 1. For the show, there was no such thing as season 1 and season 2. We just kept making episodes. We never took a break. We literally did not take a break. Nobody had a day off for 2 seasons. So there was, we were just facing a really difficult battle to make that show, because we were over budget and because the show was, while it seemed like a hit show for the rest of the world, for the network as a business, they didn't care that people liked the show. They don't care. They don't care that the audience likes the show. They needed the show to be made for a certain amount of money on a certain number of days, and we couldn't do that. We were just in trouble all the time.
But the great thing in Heroes is that it's a universe, as you said, and there is a comics adaptation. So there is stories in the books that it's not in the show, and
Yep.
there is also video game, Genesis. I think about Genesis in the
Yep.
Heroes Reborn season, and I really love the fact that there is other stories in other medias.
Yes.
Does it exist a book, a novel
Yes.
about Heroes?
Yes.
Yeah?
Couple of novels. Yes. And so the whole idea with Heroes for a lot of us who worked on it was that, yes, it's a universe, and you can tap into that universe through the television show, which is obviously the most important part. It's the what I call the mothership, is the television show. But story exists in all of these different ways, on mobile and online and on our comic books and in the novels and in the games. So the story is all around. It's like in a big circle, and in the middle of the circle is the television show. And the goal was to try to create a universe that could outlive a television. As you know, a television show has a shelf life. It has a life that, especially nowadays, very few shows last longer than maybe 36 episodes or so, right? So the question is, how do you create an IP, a property, a brand that can outlive the short attention span of television? And we were trying to do that within a structure that was only interested in the television show. The company that was making the show was only interested in the television show. So we were trying to force all of these other ways of thinking about the brand onto a company that had not gotten there yet. Now, of course, today, they all are thinking in this way. They're all thinking about the idea of how to create a universe around a property. But back then, that was not something that they were very interested in thinking about.
And so you prepare, but it was canceled the 5th season when Claire Bennett is showing to everybody that people has power, and then there is the finish. The season is cancelled, and then there is Heroes Reborn.
Yeah.
And I think you said this is the 12th season of Heroes, but you can see the 5th, the 6th.
The volume.
For you, for you,
volumes.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell the story in volumes, not seasons. And to be honest, we made a little bit of a mistake in the first season. We made the first volume was all the way. The first volume ended with 2 minutes left in the season. The second volume starts at the end of the season finale when Hiro Nakamura lands in Japan. And I think I should have made the volume one and somewhere in the middle of the season so that the audience would understand that we're telling these stories in volumes. And it was important for me to tell the idea of volumes because I felt that a serialized TV show has a lot of trouble keeping the audience going for a long, long time because the story sometimes gets too insular, too wrapped around itself, right? The story can become very tight. And so somebody a new viewer, a new audience has a hard time coming into a show that is wrapped around itself too much. And so the idea of the volumes was to stop the story. It's like stopping the train at a different station and letting new people get on the train so that you can have always new audience coming to the audience. And so I wanted to have multiple volumes and also to sort of get rid of characters, to bring in new characters, to do new types of visual styles. So each volume had a slightly different visual style. Sometimes it was easier or harder for the audience to see that, but we changed, lenses and color palettes and all of that. It was and tone. Some volumes were much lighter than others. Some volumes were very heavy in terms of the tone of them. So I was trying to create these volumes to get the audience used to a whole world of storytelling. So the second season, we were meant to have 3 volumes. And I thought the audience would get really used to this idea. But then the writer's strike hit and we only finished 1 volume. So the audience still wasn't used to the idea that there were multiple volumes. They
Yeah,
were just only seeing it as seasons and not volumes.
but the third season is awesome. The beginning of third season, I need to rewatch it twice because it's very fast. There is many visual effects. I really appreciate this with Mohinder, with becoming a
Yeah,
monster.
yeah.
Yeah, I really love this. According to Heroes Reborn, do you know who is the Claire Bennett husband? Because at the end they say, "Oh, Christine Rose, the character of Christine Rose, say, oh
Yeah,
no,
Christine.
your dad will come back, but who is the dad?"
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Oh, now you're asking me questions I've got to think back on. Uh, sometimes who is the dad? I'll get back to you on that. Let me think about that one. Yeah,
Is it
I don't.
Sylar? Do you think
Well,
Sylar?
that was the implication, was that it was silent. Yeah,
Because I think Sylar, I don't know why, but I feel a love story between
that was the
Sylar
implication. Yeah.
and Claire Bennett. I don't know why, but it's like they hate together, but they love together. It's
Yes,
very
exactly.
strange.
Yes, they are very tied to one another. And when you find out, you're supposed to think that he's actually the father, and that they're actually related to each other. It's a very as the show went on, it became clear that there were certain characters that were very key, and Siler was not originally meant to be that character. But when we cast Zach Quinto, we realized that originally Siler was supposed to be more one-dimensional. He was a shark, a killer, and but when we cast Zach Quinto, I remember, when we in the editing room, just seeing a big close-up of his face and realizing how much more this actor, how much more pain and suffering and intelligence was in his face than what I had thought. And it got us all very excited to tell deeper, more interesting stories with him. And he became a more interesting character. Oftentimes with a television show, what you plan for changes with casting. a lot with casting. When you cast the right type of person, another example was Claire's father. That character,
Jack Coleman.
Jack Coleman, he was a very minor character at the beginning, so much so that he didn't even have a name. We never gave him a name. It was just the man with the horn-rimmed glasses. And but Jack became very interesting for me as a character. I really loved this idea that he was both a wonderful father, a loving, caring father, and a cold killer at the same time. I like that he
That's
was
right.
both of those things.
But it's
And
the kind, yeah, it's the kind of
it just
hero.
became very interesting to me. So I
Yeah,
wanted to write more for him. Yeah.
but for me, it's the main character of the series because he's in the whole season of the show.
Yes. Yes. He ultimately is in a way, the show is, if it were to go on for 20 seasons, I think he would be somewhat of a spine through the whole thing. In the same way that Hero would as well, I think, be a spine through the whole thing.
I really love also Matt Parkman. He's very interesting because Matt Parkman is a cop, so he's a good person normally. But in the first season, when Hero goes to the future with Ando, we see him very bad. You know, he's working with Adrian, with the brother, and
Yeah.
and in Heroes Reborn, that's true because
Yeah.
he's becoming bad too. It's
Yeah.
strange because it's like Matt Parkman is a nice guy, but in the future, in the previous season, shows him bad, and in Heroes Revolution, he is bad, so he can
Yeah.
escape to the destiny, and he is bad. And it's
Yes.
the opposite of Sarah because Sarah is a shark, and he became good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, Matt Parkman, Greg Grunberg,
Yeah,
you cast these characters, and you don't know what the limits of that character is until you cast them. And then with Greg Grunberg, he's such a wonderful actor, and he could play. He's inherently lovable. You love him as a person, but he has the ability to play dark. And as soon as we saw that he had that tool in his toolbox, we decided to really use that and go with it. And so I can't sort of stress enough how much a show. I think a lot of people want to think that a television show is all in the head of the creator all the time, but the truth is, a show is a very organic process. There's 300 people that work on the show, and casting becomes really important because oftentimes characters emerge because of the actor that you cast, and so a television show is sort of like a heat-seeking missile. It goes where the heat is. It goes in the direction of what's working or what wants to work. So when let's say you get two characters together and they're supposed to fall in love, and then you find out when you film it that the two actors have no chemistry with one another, right? That happens all the time. You find out that people have no chemistry. And so now you've written 5 episodes with them and it's not working. So you have to go in a different direction. And so a show has to be able to adapt and grow in that way.
And did you act in the series? Are you in the background or something like this in the series?
I think in one or two times I'm in the background. I tell you, I have such I'm sure maybe, I don't know how this translates, but I have stage fright. I'm very afraid of being on camera.
But you acted in a short movie, I saw.
I did.
Yes, I found the it's the name is No Regrets.
Oh, is it when I was in film school?
I don't know, it is from 2003. It's on your in IMDb. When you type Tim Kring, there is a scriptwriter, producer, actor, and I click on actor, and they say
Okay,
no
wow.
regrets. But I don't know if it's you. Maybe it's not you.
No, 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 no. Because I am telling you, I have so much stage fright when the camera's on me. I kind of freeze. I like freeze up to try to walk across the room. I suddenly forget how to walk, and I just yeah. I'm not meant to be in front of the camera. I'm meant to be behind the camera.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Uh, did you did you like to produce series that that you didn't write?
Um, that hasn't happened. I mean, I have been mainly the creator of the show. Um, the few times, no, I'm not interested in that. It's I think every writer wants to have their own voice. When you write on someone else's show, which I did earlier in my career, um, it's a different muscle that you use. Um, you're trying you're trying to
It's okay.
you're trying to imitate the voice of the show. It's not your voice; it's the creator of the show's voice. So you're trying to, if it's a David Kelly show or an Aaron Sorkin show, or you're trying to write like that, like that showrunner, like that creator. Um, and I think once you have had the chance to write in your own voice, I think it gets harder to go back and try and write someone else's show.
That's right. So according to Heroes, you did love the show. For you, it's your baby. Did you really did you really get some good moments? Would you like to live that again with another thing?
Well, listen, I've had now a couple of other shows, obviously, and I continue to make my own, I just did, my last show was Treadstone, and before that was Dig, and then Heroes Reborn. So I've had, I continue to move on to other things that I'm interested in doing. I mean, Heroes was I before Heroes, I had a show called Crossing Jordan, and we did 6 seasons of that show. And yes, I loved working on these things, but um, I'm always thinking about what I want to do next. uh, Sometimes when you make a television show, you you know you the show, as I was saying, it can become something that outgrows you because so many other people are working on it, and I think sometimes the hard part is to keep remembering why you wanted to do this particular you have to keep going back to the original inspiration of what you wanted to say. And sometimes if a show takes 4 or 5 years of your life, you have changed as a person. You want to say other things. Um, so that's why I think the new style of doing shows is not to get 10 seasons. It's to get, a couple of seasons out of. And in some ways that may fit my personality a little better, that you don't have to be on one idea for so many years.
And this is true. I think about that, but in Heroes there is Ando, and Ando is not really bad, but he loves women and money,
Yes,
and that's very strange because in the season 3 we see him killing
yes,
Hero, and
that's right.
during all the show, including the 4th season, he say no, you won't be. you won't be killed because he has a tumor. And no,
That's
no,
right.
you won't
That's right.
you won't be killed because I will kill you in the future. But you never know. And in Heroes Reborn, we don't see Ando anymore.
That's right.
It's like Peter and Sylar. We don't know what
I
are
know.
their destiny.
And the truth is the goal was to keep teasing these things out in the future so that we would have a reason to come back and tell more stories. So we were trying to, hold as many questions as we could to continue to convince the network that we need to come back and tell more story. And that's, so in some ways that's a good thing to let the audience continue to have questions, because you never know when the show is going to come back in some way. And
Yes,
I think about these big, when you think about something like Star Trek, Star Trek was a failed TV show. And it started in 1967, and 50 years later it's still telling story. And so hopefully the world of heroes has a life that's still out there, so that some of those questions can be answered.
yeah, but that's interesting to ask question in your mind and to speak with the creator. So maybe we find
Yeah.
way of views, point
Yeah.
of views.
And
But
the
yeah,
truth is, a lot of times with this is that people sort of forget that it's a business with actors and directors and all of that. And sometimes, an actor can't come back to something because now they're on another show, and they don't have a contract that lets them come back, and so there
yeah,
can be many reasons why something.
yeah.
People ask all the time, what happened to that character on that show that we love so much? And the truth is, that actor got another job and didn't want to come back to the show.
That's right. That's right. And did you meet some people like heroes, who has extraordinary abilities, or not? Did you believe in people not like heroes or superhero, but did you believe in people who has special abilities in the world?
I don't think I've ever really. Uh, there is. Uh, it's only a couple times in my life have I had a moment where I thought someone was maybe had some kind of a, you know, ESP or some sort of telepathy or something. I just, no, I don't know that I've ever really met anybody that I would say had a superpower. I wish listen, I would love to have had, some kind of superpower, but no, I'm not blessed with that.
Yes, okay. Yes, but as you said in Heroes, if everybody could buy a power, it will destroy the world.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, maybe we're not meant to. We're meant to solve our own problems in our very human ways.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And according to the job scriptwriter, is it a hard job? Do you think it's easy for young people to be a scriptwriter? You are not from a young generation. You were born in the 50s, so the world has changed, the technology has changed.
Yeah.
There is internet. According to you, is it possible right now to create a series like Lost, Heroes, Desperate Housewives, or the TV has changed, maybe to go to Netflix or something like this?
I mean, yes, I mean, obviously the world has changed drastically with the amount of content that is available, and the ability for people to create their own channels, and their own create content that has huge audience compared to, when we did Heroes, we had 12, 13 million viewers on a night, and that was a huge audience. Now you can create a YouTube channel that has 10 times that many viewers. So the ability to, the great sort of democracy of content is out there. It is still difficult to launch a big, expensive television show because it's hard to get somebody to want to spend $100 million making 10 episodes of television. But the truth is, there's so many shows now, so many more opportunities for places where you can sell a show. I think it's the absolute golden age of a time to be a screenwriter. Also, I don't think you have to be in Hollywood. It used to be that you had to come here to Los Angeles and live here, because when you lived here, you knew people. You maybe someone in the apartment above you, or someone who serves you coffee in the morning would be somebody that would help your career. Now I think you can live almost anywhere and connect with people, and so it means that you don't have to get on a plane or a train or a bus and come to Hollywood. You can be in Belgium and you can write a hit television show.
That's right. That's right. What's your favorite hits? Belgium hits? Maybe you know Belgium, Tintin, Lucky Luke, the Smurfs, Bob Moran.
Was the Smurfs Belgian?
Yeah, it's
Oh, I
from
didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of properties there, Tintin, and yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
I was a fan of Tintin when I was a kid, definitely.
Yeah, you discovered Tintin in the USA because it's
Yes, of
hard to
course.
find.
No. It was no. In my generation, people read Tintin when they were children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know Spirou?
Yes. Yeah.
You know Spirou?
Yeah.
I would like that one day an American person direct a movie about Spirou.
That would be great.
Yeah, if you have an idea,
somebody should.
I think you should do it. You should do it because
I'm gonna look it up and do some research on it. Yeah.
In France, they made a movie in 2018, but it was a bit shitty. But Spirou is very great with André Franquin. It's a very giant in the comics field. He created Le Marsupilami, the animal say "Uba,
right.
Uba."
Yeah.
But Marsupilami is not anymore into Spirou. So the rights of Marsupilami is owned by another company. So if you do Spirou, you cannot take over Marsupilami, but you can take Fantasios, Pip. But I think it will be really great one day if an American person make a thing about Spirou, an animated movie. And I think you could be the good guy doing it because there is adventure, treasures, and I don't know.
Send me some information. I mean, some what I should look at.
Really, for me, it's a big hit in Belgium, in Europe, in Spain, in Luxembourg.
I wonder if the rights are all tied up with some studio
really,
already.
That's something very strange in Belgium. Tintin is very famous.
Yeah.
So there was movies in the 60s, but French movies, and with Spielberg. There was a big movie, and Peter Jackson will direct a new movie also. But for Spirou, it's very strange because we need to wait until 2018 to get a movie. Sorry, a shitty movie. Sorry for this. But I think we could do something really wonderful that makes Spirou in America, like Tintin in America. And yeah, there is science.
Well, you have my email. Send me stuff.
Yeah,
we can talk about it.
And I am a big fan of comics, and I think Dupuis will be very great. And I think for me, if you do a Spirou series in Netflix with good cast, we spoke about casting with Matt Parkman and everything, because the cast became the characters and gave the heart to the character. And yes, we will chat together about that.
Good.
Okay.
So listen, I have to go right. I'm in the middle of a deadline.
Thank you so much for the interview and for the Instagram live.
And great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Have a good day. Bye.
Okay,
Thanks.
au revoir. Bye.
Au revoir.